Hey everybody, welcome to Go to Your Room and Make Stuff, the podcast about making art, any kind of art, all by ourselves in a room or a studio, maybe outside. No one is telling us when, where, or how, or any combination of those things. This is a podcast for solo artistic adventurers, those who are doing it and those who want to try it. Support, ideas, and just plain fun. Well, hi, Robb, thank you so much for coming on today. Chef Robb Seltzer is an experienced educator, chef, and director of food and beverage operations with a 40-plus year history of working in the food service industry and higher education. Skilled in catering, the hospitality industry, culinary arts and management, and wine. Strong education professional with a master's of education focused in adult education and training from the American Intercontinental University. Chef Robb, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. So good to see you, Shana.
Yes.
Yes.
And Robb and I know each other not through arts, and not really through performing arts or food arts or culinary arts. Robb and I share, we're members of the Zipper Club.
Right. I have my shirt up. I was
Me
like,
too. Yeah, you can't see mine today. Mine's right here too. Yes.
yeah, you can see it right there. Yeah.
We are members of the Aortic Dissection Club, the ones that are still here.
Yep.
And every once in a while, I get to come into these incredible support groups, and that's where I got to know Robb. And then you guys have this, you and Mindy had this amazing Aortic Chef TV show on
Right.
YouTube.
Right.
And those are so fun.
We have a good time. My wife is, she's a registered dietitian. So between the two of us, we have both sides of it. When we were first married, we always tell the story was, it was knives out in the kitchen. Because I would grab the butter and she'd be like, no, put this away.
Right.
So, yeah. After, 48 years, we've kind of mellowed in that respect.
You guys took the most fantastic trip last fall, too. And I remember taking coffee with me on the cruise ship this year that I went on, because you guys, they ran out of coffee on the cruise ship on one of your experiences, right, in Europe? And how long were you there? Were you there for 3 months?
We were in Europe for 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, we started down in Athens and on the in the Aegean Sea, doing on a private sailing charter with 12 people, which was very cool. And from there, we then went all the way up to Amsterdam, and then came back down to Rome. By ourselves, unplanned, with a rail pass, and just kind of, I called my folder in my, in the computer for all the stuff for the trip. It was called Wanderlust.
Ah,
that's the name of my file.
Wanderlust. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So coming back, we canceled the flight home, and because we found a repositioning cruise, which is a great way to travel.
I know people that do that. Yeah. You come back across.
Right. They go back, and when the seasons change, the ships from the Mediterranean come to Florida for the winter.
Yes.
And then in the spring, they go back to Europe because of the weather change. So they're the 16-day cruise from Rome to New York, for both of us, upgraded cabin was like $2,400.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Amazing.
I lived vicariously your entire trip. It was amazing.
Cool. But we hit some rough weather. It was November. So we couldn't make one of the planned stops, and that's why we had a couple extra days at sea.
Yeah.
And that's when they started running out of coffee, because we had to wait until they got to Bermuda, until we crossed the Atlantic to the next stop. So yeah,
there's nowhere to pull in and get more. Yeah,
they ran out of everything. Yeah, and we were lucky. We also, when we travel like that, we always have coffee packets. So it's like, you go to Europe, the Nescafe packets are everywhere. Even the coffee shops sell, you can buy, as a choice, instant Nescafe. It's good stuff.
So before we dive into details about culinary art, can you share a fun or unique fact about yourself that listeners might not know?
Well, totally unrelated. I grew up in high school. I had a very interesting job, my summer job. I worked in an amusement park, and I was a ride operator, and I worked with carnies. It was kind of a family. My grandmother was a part owner of this amusement in Detroit. And it was everything. We had a wood roller coaster and the giant Ferris wheel and Dodgem cars. And I ran the wild mouse and the giant Ferris wheel and worked on the roller coaster repairing, used to hang upside down, repairing
Wow. Okay.
come danger, back when we were invincible.
Right?
And right. So I did that, got even into college. So probably, about 6, 7 years and a lot of fun. Got to meet very interesting people, you
Oh, I can
know.
imagine. I can
Yeah.
imagine the circus arts. That's its yes. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carnies. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, plus the guests because, I mean, I was a suburban kind of kid, but we did the big picnics for all the unions, the UAW and the AFL-CIO and all these people. So all these, factory workers. So I got exposed to a lot of different types of people
Yeah.
and also got to see a lot of good acts because they had great entertainment back then. We would have the Temptations, the Four Tops,
Yeah.
uh, Aretha Franklin, because they were local Detroit names and they would play at all these things. It's like, so it was a good time. Before I got invested in an interest in the culinary arts.
So tell us about your art medium or mediums.
My art medium, well, is food, basically, and the palette is a plate. So I work with, it gives me a full spectrum of colors
Yeah.
and textures. I mean, just like anything else, So I have color and texture and size and shape, and uh, always try to build contrast. Contrast is a big part of my the business, so to speak, or the art, just making sure that you have contrast, or else food's boring. Just like looking at a picture that's all blue. You
Right.
know?
So you had your time at the amusement park. What led you from amusement park into food?
Well, my mother was a really, really accomplished cook. I mean, she used to we'll just leave it at that. She was very accomplished, and everybody wanted to come, to our house for cooking for dinners or parties, and she planned things, and she was very creative.
Yeah.
So she put that spark in me. I started cooking when I was like 8,
Yeah.
and so it was very food centric family. And so eventually, I mean, when I first went to school, to college, I was going into politics and government,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah. So it wasn't until I started college in 72. All right. So it was still, the Vietnam era and all
Yeah.
that. And so I was going to go into poli sci, and that was it. And it was okay, but it was also I ended up dropping out my second year because I just stopped going to class, having too much fun,
Yeah.
so to
Okay.
speak.
Yep.
And so I went to work, and I got a job in the restaurant business when I dropped out, and I really, really loved it. So that's when I decided to go back. And Michigan has one of the top hotel restaurant schools in the country. And that's
Yeah.
Michigan State, their hospitality. So that was my goal, to go back. And the second time around in college is so much easier than the first time.
Mom says the same thing, and I think believes she played too much bridge. That's how she flunked out and left the first time. Yeah, same thing. She said when she went back. That was when
Mhm.
it was that was when it was serious for her. Yeah.
Right. Right. Because you had a goal. I guess it's all about goal setting. And, so made it through that and then onward, you know, and that's where I met the
Awesome.
people that really got me on the road.
So right now, like where is your room, your studio? Where do you work? Do you currently work as a chef? Where are you in your career? Yeah.
Hmm. I work from home because I am fully retired as a result of my dissection.
Yeah.
I had no choice. I mean, I could probably go out and find work, but honestly, I'm 2 years out. And so I've well into my recovery, but
Yeah.
as I'm told, 2 years still, I'm not done yet.
No,
So,
I'm 4.5 years.
yeah,
Yeah, it does. Although frankly, I can't imagine going to, and I'm younger, but I like the fact I work out of my house.
yeah,
So while
that's
I'm not retired, I am able to rest whenever I need to.
exactly. I mean, I can go back and teach
Yep.
because, especially during the pandemic, I did everything from my house
Right.
and continue to do on because when I was at the university, um, as the director, but I was also faculty, so I taught classes as well. And, they were all online, so that would be an option. But right now, having too much fun.
Right?
And, I think it's something you asked about. What about, you know, they say, we have a saying, friends of us, now that we're retired, every day is Saturday except
Yes.
Sunday.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you've got time,
Right.
to go to Europe and take the longer cruise back.
Hmm.
And do you find that you are spending time cooking more, less, the same than you did, say, 3.5, 4 years ago?
More, a lot more now. I mean, once I was able to get back in the kitchen, because those first
Yeah.
couple times, those first while, I mean, was first dinner I tried to cook. I mean, I made it about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30. And I was done. I had to sit down
Yep.
and let Mindy
Yep.
finish,
Yep.
So that's why the kitchen's way, way uh, uh, too much energy for me even to go back into a commercial kitchen. But so now, though, no, I've become, since I can't cook in my commercial kitchens, I do it at home, and I'm pretty much the full-time chef in the house now. You know, the kitchen is now my office
Yeah.
and my area. I've kind of told Mindy, you're done. So, it gets a little older. But even, when I go visit my kids, I go up north. My daughter lives in Michigan.
Yeah.
My grandkids, they're like, when you coming back? Because I'm tired of cooking. As soon as I get in, I mean, I
Open
may
the door.
arrive at 10 o'clock. They're like, what's for lunch? You know, and then what's for
Yep.
dinner? The whole time I'm there, we stayed there for 2 months before we went to Europe.
Yeah.
I cooked probably 98% of the meals,
Mhm.
you know, and it was cool. For her, it was a great break because, being a mom and staying with kids, you get that job 3 days, 3 times a day or four
Oh,
times a
yeah.
day. She's got two boys,
Oof.
and one is he's like a horse.
Yeah.
And so for her, it's a great break. My son-in-law, he's appreciative of my cooking. He's like, Dad, you can come stay with us anytime for as long as you like. Mom, you can stay home with the dog and TV.
We just need the chef in the house. We
Right.
right? Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, because that's what I like to do. I mean, if you
Yeah.
ask me what is my favorite thing to do, cooking has always been it. It's my relaxation. It's
Yeah.
my passion. It's my thing. It's my no, it's always I'm settled. I'm calm in the kitchen. I was never a screamer chef, uh,
Mhm.
like they used to. And then that stuff on TV, most of it's
Oh,
fake.
yeah. The
Yeah,
the the
that
TV stuff is the stories I got weren't the TV. Because my friend in high school was going into hospitality, he would tell me the stories, the
Mhm.
real ones about the screaming. So I'm familiar with some of that. It's in some ways, I think, having been in theater for many years and worked, on camera and also backstage, there's some artistic screaming that sometimes happens that probably doesn't need to, and I remember thinking, "This is weirder than theater." And we
Yeah.
think that people get weird in the theater world. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because kitchens are very God, you get all sorts of people, or just restaurants in general, because you got the front and the back, and that's where a lot of the screaming and yelling comes between the service side and the kitchen side. And you get all sorts of people. I mean, if you read Bourdain's stuff, and I used to follow Anthony
Yeah.
Bourdain, he talks about that, how, you get people off the street, you get drug addicts, which I did, of course, I did have some of those,
Sure.
and, alcoholics, or you get,
Yep.
college people, great, there's such a mix. But when they're in the kitchen, everybody's just, working on the same thing, the same goal. And they most of the time they get along. Sometimes they don't. And, these things happen, but if you really got to scream, we have a screaming room,
Oh,
it's
that's a
it's
good idea.
called the walk-in refrigerator. You go in, close the door, and then
That's this space in my studio right here. I hit my head on it a couple times and I'm fine again. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, we just it's probably where the thing, go chill out. That's where it is. You go in the
You
refrigerator and
go
you chill
chill
out
out.
for a couple of minutes. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's great. So now that you're not in that environment, now that you get to go to your own room, this is actually really appropriate. When you're by yourself in the kitchen, or it's just you and Mindy, does that open things up a lot? I mean, just talk about that. I mean, how do you get motivated? You love it, right? So what is your motivation every day do you cook the same things all the time? I'm going to make a wild guess you
no,
don't.
no. Actually, now that this since I've been reintroduced to my home kitchen, and I'm doing it all the time, I'm now I think getting even more creative. Whether it's creative use of leftovers
Right.
or, it's really I like to look in the refrigerator in the pantry and just, stare for a couple of minutes and like, what am I going to do? And then something interests me, and then, okay, now what we do with this, what we do with that. So it just builds, and yeah, I've been getting more and more creative. That's where I'm, especially with the Aortic Kitchen too, because I'm creating new stuff for that
Yeah.
and playing around and doing things with, we're trying to, teach people how to cook without salt, which is really important. So we
Yeah.
experiment on ourselves, and not much experimentation anymore because I have been doing that for a long time.
Right.
Because there was one thing we didn't mention in my background when I was at the University of Central Florida. I taught in the College of Medicine as well. And I taught a
Okay.
course, yeah, I taught a course called culinary medicine to the fourth year medical students.
Oh, that's
And it was how to
fantastic.
use food rather than pharmacy,
Yes.
and teaching the med students how to cook so that they could then teach their patients rather than just, I don't know, when you were in the hospital or afterwards or come home and see your cardiologist. I mean, they would just hand you a piece of paper and say, here, this is what you can eat and this is what you shouldn't eat.
It was
Yeah.
pretty wild because in Ireland, they let me eat everything, and they were like, "You have to keep your drinking to 2 drinks a night," and I was like, "Wait, wait, I don't drink that much now." They're like, "Well, you have to keep it consistent." So they assumed I would drink alcohol after post
Mhm.
C-section, and I do have some, but it's very moderate. And they also I remember they served, like, what looked like a stick of butter with butter on the side. It was cheesecake, but
Okay.
there was no dietary restriction mentioned at all. When I came home, and then I was in a whole bunch of different hospitals. Then they went totally to DASH, complete DASH.
Right.
And then I'm hypotensive half the time and can barely take my blood pressure medicine because I already have such a low blood pressure. They started adding a little bit of salt back in, but not too much. So
Okay.
yeah, I think we're all
Well,
so different, but
you
it was
can't cut them all out. Yeah,
no,
that's not
yeah.
good. But it was so I spent several years teaching that course to the medical students. So it was already teaching them how to prepare foods, healthy foods with, no added salt is what we talk
Right.
about. Not no salt, because there's plenty of salt in the foods we get. So we're teaching
Oh,
them how to
yeah.
do it, how it look good, taste good, so they could then show their patients rather than just giving them a piece of paper or something. So, but yeah, so we play with that, and it's just fun. I try different stuff, and you
Yeah.
know, it's last night here. Quick little story on that. So the night before, my daughter, who has a lot of food requests, I have no idea why she's raised in this house. She's also worked in the business for a long time in the front, not the back. But anyways, she asked me, and also it came across during this recipe project I'm working on, an old recipe for mushroom stroganoff. So it's a vegetarian version of beef stroganoff using mushrooms,
Mushrooms. Yeah.
and it's awesome. I mean, it's really good. So Mindy had just come home from Costco with one of those big boxes of mushrooms, and so here we go. Make this big batch of mushroom stroganoff with some buttered noodles, and or actually olive oil noodles, and we had dinner. So then there's some leftover. So last night it's like, what we're going to have? I said, well, we're just going to do the leftover thing. I don't feel like really going crazy. So then my daughter, because I was thinking, I made a loaf, my first one of pumpernickel bread yesterday.
Okay.
It's not really good. Tasted it this morning. So I was just going to cut back and make like tuna sandwiches, or tuna melts or whatever on it. But she goes, how about tuna noodle casserole? We haven't had that for like 20 years. I said, but we don't have this stuff. We need the cream of mushroom. Wait, we have leftover mushroom stroganoff. That's
Good.
going to be cream of mushroom soup.
Yes.
I turned that and tuna and some vegetables, and we had a whole casserole with the leftover noodles, the mushrooms stroganoff that I then added some more milk and some stock, vegetable
Yeah.
stock and stuff. And also we had tuna noodle casserole for dinner last night. So, you know, and that's
That is the
experience.
art. You're opening the fridge and there's all of the stuff you get to play with. That's
Palate. Right. That's my palate.
yeah.
And yeah, so whether it's that or reading books, I love to read, real cookbooks because they're inspiring, or they just ideas, and then pictures, or walking through a really nice grocery store.
Farmer's market for me. And
Yeah,
now the
street
mushrooms, now you're talking about mushrooms, I wanna go back and get the big thing of mushrooms I saw when I go
and I'll
back
send you
next
the
week.
recipe for
Yes,
the mushroom
please.
stroganoff.
Yes,
I already
please.
put it in the database.
Good.
I'm trying to do things as I cook them now. But yeah, so whether it's a market, a grocery store, or even a catalog, when I would get catalogs from my providers, and they're just full of all sorts of, I can do that with this, or I can do this or that, or try to remember. So you find inspiration everywhere.
Cool. So talk about some of the projects that you're currently working on.
Well, it's the Aortic Kitchen is number one.
Yeah.
And that's the project for Aortic Hope, the organization we belong to. I had to do something. So I started off just as a member in the support groups looking for support, which I really needed, like all of us. People don't necessarily understand how devastating what happened to us is,
Yep.
and traumatic. And so we started another group. I got involved. I needed something to do. I've been working since I was, 13. So I gotta keep going.
Right. And
Yeah.
suddenly
So
so many
then,
hours, right? Yeah.
yeah. So then we came up with the Aortic Kitchen and said, I'm a chef, I'm a dietitian. We can put that to use, and I'm a teacher, so we can teach our other members how to cook healthy food. So we do that program twice a month, the first and third Wednesday, and it's about an hour. The first couple ones were out of control. I think the first one we went almost 2 hours. It was way too long, and it was amateur hour, which is funny because I've been doing it through the pandemic. We turned our kitchens at the university into studios.
Yes.
I bought all these, camera
Cirque du
equipment.
Soleil did that too. Cirque du Soleil just put cameras on stage and kept doing
Yeah.
art. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got, things, the racks to hang lights and to hang cameras over the stoves, looking down.
Oh,
So we did
yes.
all this type of stuff. So instead of the students cooking, we cooked for them and then put it online.
Right.
And so I was at Le Cordon Bleu for 6 years. I was a instructor at the culinary college. Uh, and so I'm very used to doing demonstrations and that, but it was a little bit different in the home. And I had a sidekick who had never done it before. So, gotta be
There's a
careful.
joy in that though too. I think there's something lovely about a fully polished, beautifully filmed, perfect presentation, and then there's something really lovely about when the dog jumps out. Not that this happened to you, but it could happen in my family
Wait,
upstairs. With the German Shepherd jumps up and there goes the bacon. But that hasn't happened. But
Morty has made an appearance in almost every program.
I
He's
can't
our
remember what
little
kind of dog. What kind of dog is Morty?
a Yorkie. He's a 5.5 pound Yorkie. So, or yeah, as we call him, he's a Yorkshire terrorist.
I have a corgi and a German Shepherd, and the corgi
Okay.
we call Speed Bump because he's more apt to trip you in the kitchen. He is
Uh,
in the kitchen at all times, hoping something
Holding
falls.
person. Exactly.
Yeah, and which
Yeah.
could be me. I have tripped over him several
Yeah,
times,
me
and
too. He gets
yeah.
little, you don't see him. He just stands behind you and you go to back up and it's like, oh, no. you know. But yeah, then the other dog is a 45 pound. She's pitty and she's a mixed breed.
Okay,
Catahoula and my daughter's yelling at me with the what
no worries.
and what? And a Brittany Spaniel. So
Okay,
yeah, she's a service dog. She's a trained service animal.
beautiful. Okay,
Yeah, she's fabulous.
we had
Uh,
to teach him. No, she a service animal for you?
my daughter.
Your daughter. Okay, excellent. Got it. Our dog, because I don't have a service dog, we had to teach her not to jump on my chest when I came home because she was a
Right.
puppy. She's a very, very enthusiastic German Shepherd puppy. And we taught her gentle, gentle.
Hmm.
And to this day, if we say gentle, gentle, she like backs up, puts her entire body on me and presses up against me. And it's actually extremely comforting. And
Yeah.
so she's become my therapy dog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wait there.
gentle, gentle.
That's what Bella does for my daughter. When she needs assistance, she will just actually lay on her or
Yeah,
jump in her arms and press against her and give her the cuddle type therapy,
yes.
So
Oh,
yeah, it's very cool. With the two dogs, they're always somewhere around and trying to make sure they didn't go crazy here today. So
right.
uh, yeah. So anyway, so the shows are great. Now we've got them down to, right at an hour, pretty much,
Beautiful.
55 to 65. And they're going pretty well. So that's the number one project, planning those and doing those. And then number two is I just started going through my recipe files that have been building up over the years. And I
Yes.
decided it's time to digitize them. So I'm busy typing away at my laptop. It's like I'm back in school. And
Are you photographing them too?
nah, not right now. No, I probably could.
Mm.
if I
That was
want.
just a thought I had is there's something lovely as they're being typed up and digitized, though, there's also something lovely about seeing that original handwriting
Right. Yeah, because I got some from my
from the
mother. I got
people,
some from
right?
Mindy's mother. I have these old books, which I'll show you in a minute, that actually, I mean, back from the 30s and the 20s. Then they have handwritten recipes in the binders and in the
Those.
margins and all this type of stuff. It's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I could scan them all. I have a scanner as well. It's an interesting idea for at least certain ones, you know, because I didn't really want to throw away our parents are gone, and I
Right.
didn't really want to throw away the handwritten recipes from
Oh.
my mother and stuff, you know. But
One of the friends of my family, Lilas, was my surrogate grandmother, Lilas Dieter. She had a whole bunch of these handwritten ones, and he photographed them, typed them up, and then did a book with all the images of her as well.
mhm, sure.
Is that something
Yeah.
you've also considered?
Not at this point, though. I
Yeah.
do have all the family pictures and stuff. Somehow
Yeah.
they ended up in my possession from my
Okay.
great aunt. So I have even all uh, the papers from my grandparents when they came to Ellis Island, and all that type of stuff, and all that documentation and pictures. So
The
um,
publishing world has changed so much
yeah,
that it's a lot more accessible
it's
and user friendly than it used to be,
it's
including
like yeah.
yeah, we used to call it we used to call it vanity publishing back in that was the old bad name for it. When I worked in bookstores and my dad was was an author and my mom librarian. But these days, as long as it holds, it holds up, it's pretty easy to do that. And same with like audiobook narration at this point too. There are people who narrate cookbooks. In fact, I know several people who've done brilliant jobs narrating cookbooks and making cookbooks accessible to
Wow.
those who can't read too. Anyway, but yeah, so where are you in this project of collecting all the stuff?
Well, I'm actually working on it as I was doing stuff before we came online here.
Yeah.
So I started this. It's Friday, maybe beginning of this week, end of last week. I just decided it was time. I was sitting around and said, okay, because I was looking for a recipe, and I was like, oh man, I really need to. Well, it's not that I don't have time anymore.
Right.
Here I can. Let's see what I can do here. So
Oh
there's all the
yeah.
recipe and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
There's
Okay.
my recipe. There's the old recipe file here that we've used as a collection spot for you know, all the handwrites and things like that. There's avocado and pork aspic. That's from when I was a chef at Notre Dame.
Aspics, holy cow. I know what an aspic is. I
Yeah.
can tell you I've never made one, but
Oh,
I
okay.
do know what they are.
Right. Well, that's when I was executive chef at Notre Dame for a period of time in
Okay.
South Bend. And we did some really cool parties and all this stuff. So, yeah. So I'm just starting to really, and every day, like talking to you, we got some new ideas. So
Yeah.
you talk about books, you remind me of librarians. So one thing Mindy and I like to do is when we're traveling, we'll go to antique stores and look for books. 'Cause I have quite a cookbook collection, of course,
Yeah.
several hundred. We've really whittled it down, gave a lot to my kids, gave some away
It's
because
so hard though. They're like precious children.
yeah, but
I
as
have a hard
we've
time.
moved, it's like we got to get rid of more stuff.
I
You
know.
collect a lot of things after 45 years, 40, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. So this one is one of our favorites. This is called Household Discoveries and Mrs. Curtis's Cookbook.
Oh
Okay,
wow, what year?
I'm going to tell you. But look at this. If you can see this, see right
I can
inside.
almost smell it. I just love books like that. Oh, there's all the handwriting
Handwritten
inside.
recipes right there on the inside.
Perfect.
Sweet peach pickles, chili sauce, household discoveries, encyclopedia of practical recipes and process. This book is really funny, but look, I mean, every page, devil's food cake, and it's the
Oh
binding. I mean, the
wow.
thing's falling
Of
apart.
course it is. Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, this book was sold door to door. You couldn't get it in bookstores.
This podcast is brought to you by the Seattle Voice Academy, and your host runs the podcast and the Seattle Voice Academy. This online voice school specializes in vocal health, singing, voiceover, and public speaking. Come check us out, seattlevoiceacademy.com. I remember that from when I was itty bitty. Yes,
So
I know about this. Yeah.
here's an introduction from the Success Company's branch offices. 1 cent a word. We will pay for new household discoveries, including all practical recipes and processes not contained in this volume, 1 cent a word for all we can use in future editions of Household Discoveries. Corrections of errors or misstatements utilized by us will be paid for at the same rate. If you have saved money or have been otherwise benefited by using one of our recipes, write us all about it. So send them a recipe and they'll
Oh,
penny
that's his history. That's cool.
penny a word. So it's not offered through sale. This whole thing must just door to door. Petersburg, New York. There's more. Everything's covered with handwriting.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. I think a page with I think it's 1930 something. This because I couldn't find. I think I gotta be really careful.
Of course, and yeah, because those pages actually can start to disintegrate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, oh, here it is. Copyright. I was wrong. I'm sorry. 1908.
Oh my goodness! That's why the book is starting to fall apart. Holy cow! That book's 100 and what 50? Yeah, 14.
Yeah.
16.
16 years old.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So this is for everything you needed to run a household.
I can see why they're writing the margins too, because paper wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying paper wasn't accessible, but it might not have been as accessible as today.
I love certain things. Starts with furnishing and decorating, heating, lighting, and refrigeration, the day routine, preparations for wash day, soap and soap making, wash day, ironing day, sewing and mending day, sweeping day, house cleaning, household garden pest, family workroom 2, family workroom 3.
Right.
Oh, the toilet and bath, toilet preparations, hairdressing, teeth, candies and candy making. We get into food, vinegars, pickles, pickling. Preservation, health hints what to do in an emergency. So this is more of a, it's how to run a household than there's some recipes and stuff, but more than a cookbook. It's really all this other stuff. So
wow.
The talk about kinds of fuel. The favorite fuel back then was kerosene. And in here, you do everything with kerosene. You got mosquitoes, go spray your yard with kerosene. You have stains, use kerosene.
Oh, geez.
You want to get rid of your husband, wash his favorite chair with kerosene. And give him a cigar. No, doesn't say that.
No, but yes, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, everything is really how to build a fire, all these types of things. So it's very how to soften, I can go on and on. So this type of thing,
right?
It's really fun.
But taking all that history and then putting that in with recipes you have from your family,
right?
That's really, really meaningful stuff. Not just for your family, but other people are going to enjoy it too. And
then there's the world's modern cookbook. This is the other one that
I used to love how they used to make the hardbacks look so beautiful. And I love Kindles. I think Kindles have their place. And yes, I like having a tablet in the kitchen with me sometimes. Although I have a lot of cookbooks and I read them. And they are my children. I don't think I've ever gotten rid of a cookbook. I get rid of other books. I give away books a lot. But man, my cookbooks are stained.
So this one just is full of child scribbles.
Well, that's how they had in a half hour to cook. They get you here, use this.
Yeah. Here's who it was for. Now these pages are stuck together, but so it's the world's modern cookbook for the busy woman.
My goodness, modern. It's very modern. The busy woman.
Yes, a complete guide to kitchen management.
Oh my goodness. This is great. And if they're in the public domain, it makes me want to go find them and read them out loud.
Some of these things, I love electric table stoves and kitchen conveniences. Yeah, here's the old ringer washers.
Wow. This is all stuff we do so differently now.
This is outdoor dining,
That's cool.
Oh, it's nice.
But actually, that looks that's modern enough, yes.
Casseroles and baking, decorating your table. But, they do whole menus with shopping lists and everything. So you go to the store, you get everything you need.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a great...
It's not a blog with 17 ads on it, which is what happens if I look up a quick recipe online.
Yeah, I know. The internet is a dangerous place for recipes.
I agree. There's a lot of mediocrity that's easily accessible.
Right.
And I'll find that mediocre recipe. Occasionally, I've stumbled onto something wildly amazing. There's a really neat chef down in Australia doing some plant-based stuff that is exceptionally tasty. But it's so rare that and I stumbled on her, like, on
Mm.
Facebook. And I've since, reached out to her, and she has a printed cookbook, 'cause
Cool.
that's what I want. I wanna hold the book. I want my plastic thing I put my cookbook in. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I wanna ask too, with being a chef, have you ever had a really bad or a discouraging day where you just don't want to cook? And what do you do if that happens? Or are you always cool cooking?
Well, no, I mean, there's days, I mean, especially now,
Yeah.
I just had enough, so that's the out to dinner or, somebody else want to cook. Uh, but it's not so much discouraging. I'm just not motivated. I'm having one
Yeah.
of those tired days. But
Yes. Oh,
when I
yes.
was doing it professionally, well, if you got a place to run, you got people to feed, and you got to open up, you got to be there, and you got to do it. But you can get discouraged. Nothing like you know having bad interactions with customers. That person that just hates your cooking, or
Mm,
you can't satisfy them. The old, I guess we call them Karens now. Um,
right? Yeah, how do you handle critique? Because, sometimes we don't think about it, but absolutely chefs and restaurants,
all the
and
time.
of course there are critics and all of that. How do you handle it?
Um, I tend to take a lot of it to heart. It's even and still spilled over when I was a faculty member because students can just be ruthless in the reviews of their professors, and they love you or they hate you. So same thing with diners. And the hard thing about, and I always had to remember this, is that the hard thing about cooking for the public is that everyone that you serve is a professional. They've been eating all their life, and they know exactly what it's supposed to be like and what they want and how it should be done.
Right.
So, you're up against another person that at least believes they know everything about what should be. So, that's part of what makes a good chef. They always people ask me that, what's it really take? And when I tell my students at Le Cordon Bleu, I said, if you're lucky enough, I worked for a guy in South Bend. After I left Notre Dame, I had a restaurant that I wasn't mine. It's called the East Bank Emporium. I think it's still there. Well, yeah, maybe. That was a long time ago. And the owner, Bruce, he used to say, Rob, you have a really good taster. I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah, no, and what that really means, and I still use that term. I says, you guys, if you have a really good taster, you're lucky. If you're able to make something and taste it, and you like it, you approve of it, and if you're lucky enough, it's something that everybody else will like and approve. Because not everything you make and you like, anyone else will eat, right? People,
Right.
yeah, they don't have that balance, or they don't know how to temper stuff and make it so that it's, acceptable to a lot of people. So you got to have that good taster, I guess. It's which I was blessed with that. Uh,
Okay. That's what's talent.
People
Yeah. Yeah.
have always liked my cooking, always, and been very lucky in that. And
Mm.
so
I think when we
maybe
when
a
we
little bit
lean into the
easier.
stuff that you lean Atomic Habits is a book. He talks about that. He says leaning into the stuff we have a little bit of aptitude for is easier than
Right,
the stuff
right.
that we don't. Yeah.
Because when I went to school to Michigan State, I was going to be a hotel restaurant manager, and I wanted to own and run and be a restaurant manager, coat and tie and all that type of stuff. And I had a mentor at the university in Michigan State. His name was Dr. Louis J. Miner. Now, he was very, very famous and very influential in the world of chefdom. He invented the modern day soup base.
Ah, okay. Okay.
He was a food scientist, and he
Yeah.
taught in the school. I mean, it was minor soup bases. They were out of Cleveland, and they were the first ones, to make like a fresh refrigerated only. You see, and you can see them by Costco everywhere. You can
Right, the
buy
starters.
concentrate soup bases.
Yeah.
He's the one that invented them.
Okay.
And so he was my favorite professor. This is the most ethical man I ever met, the most
Okay.
honest guy. I mean, I loved this man. I would spend hours in his office rather than going to class, you know,
Right.
and, and so we became close, and uh, he's the one. um, that got me to go towards the culinary side accidentally. I mean, I
Hmm.
already liked to cook, and I cooked in college. My part-time jobs, I was in restaurants, and I was always in the back of the house. Well, no, I in the front of the house too, but I enjoyed the back of the house more, you know. And he said, "You have to go to culinary school." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you can get this degree, and you can be a great manager, but if you don't know how to operate the kitchen, your chefs are going to take advantage of you, and they will steal you blind. So you have to know what goes on in that kitchen." So, okay. So off I went, and he got me to matriculate to Johnson Wales College
Okay.
out in Rhode Island, which is, back then it was only one campus, a smaller. A lot of famous people have come out of there. Probably most famous is Emerald. He was there a couple of years after me. But
Okay.
I ended up becoming an instructor there. That's where my teaching career started.
Very.
So uh, and he was disappointed in that, because I went there and I just graduated and I still needed income. And I talked to them, and I did real well in school. They said, "Well, you could teach in the academic side of it, because we teach menu planning and sanitation and, design and all that stuff." So they offered me a job teaching, and then I could audit any classes and go down to the kitchens whenever I needed to. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. So, but I was exposed around that. And when I left there, I ended up going eventually into my first restaurant job as a chef,
Mm.
with one of my professors from Michigan State, who was consulting and needed somebody, and they asked me if I wanted to go open this restaurant with them. And it was great. It was amazing, great experience. But a lot's happened since then.
Oh,
I mean, when I
yeah.
look back at it, I sucked. I
You know,
didn't really, because I'm actually doing some of the recipes from that very first restaurant.
and you're realizing how much growth. But at least
Yes.
you were doing it. I think that's something too where people I've met some people who wanna wait until they are ready, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be trained. Training's great, but we could wait forever.
Right.
There's that moment of starting even though you're kinda terrible, or I was very inconsistent. Most of the artistic things I have chosen to do, I'm wildly inconsistent when I start. There's moments of brilliance and lots of really bad stuff, but I
Right.
start it and I do it anyway, and just to get
Yeah.
better.
I mean, my food was good. I mean, believe me, still back then,
Great.
I made good food, but like I was just doing a recipe for spanakopita, for spinach pie. And it's a recipe from that restaurant. We had it on the menu there, and it's still a great recipe. And so, but the things ingredients have changed.
Yes.
We didn't have access in the 80s to in the 70s to things that we have. Now the world of, whether it's just air freight and Amazon, and we can get food from Europe the next day, and the
Yes.
things in the grocery store. When I was at Notre Dame, we did a dinner for the major donors. They're like they had to give at least $1 million in unrestricted giving. This is back in '84.
Okay.
And the Soren Society, Father Soren, he's one of the founders of Notre Dame. And so we like, the CEO of Coca-Cola and
Oh, yeah.
GM, all these. So we had a chef, Michel Lebonnier. He was the head of the New England Culinary Institute in Vermont. And he was friends with our director at Notre Dame, Bill Hickey. So he came, and we were doing something. And he told me one of the things he wanted me to do is I need I want some French, some red wine vinegar. And so, no big deal. But I told the purchasing guy, we need good quality, and he ended up, with Heinz. And he came in and he was so disgusted, but in South Bend, Indiana, we didn't have French
Right.
red wine vinegar
I
or
toured
Spanish.
South Bend, Indiana in 1990 was the
Huh?
year I was there, just for about I was there 1 week. That's it.
Did you go down to the river, the area there where they do the kayaking and all that?
When we were in South Bend, we saw Harry Connick Jr. perform at the college, and we were doing Missoula Children's Theater. So there wasn't a
Okay.
lot of spare time, but I do I have been to South Bend,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
but it was mid-90s.
Right. So it was 10, 15 years after I was there. Yeah, because we left in '86.
Okay.
All my kids are little Hoosiers. So, yeah, but
So
it's just funny, the things that, happen then. Here, I found something else. I'll show you
yeah.
the creative process. So, going through my file, I found this. I mean, look at this is
So,
all. This
yes.
is actually when I worked at the restaurant, the Emporium. This was a separate when people wanted separate checks. We had these little pieces of paper that were typed that had the cost with the tax of every item on the menu, so the server could just circle it, do it, add it up, and give people a separate
So
check.
for anyone listening, is that basically a check? One side looks typed up and the other side is handwritten, right?
This side is a recipe. I
Oh,
grabbed one of these
oh, there we
things.
go. There we go.
I was working on a barbecue sauce.
And you grab the receipt. There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why it's all stained and torn, and used it for it's a really good barbecue sauce because we used to do prime ribs, and we used to roast them on the bone and everything. So
Yes.
every Monday night it was barbecue beef rib night.
We're
Yeah,
gonna get off of this call, and I'm gonna need to go upstairs and totally get into my fridge.
yeah. I do that to people. I have a
All of
bad
this sounds so really, really, really good.
then I have what else do I have here? Yeah, just weird. Sometimes you just grab what you got. So this is my vegetarian eggplant chili.
Oh, it's great. On
Yeah,
some beautiful. It looks like I can't tell the stationery below it, but there's like some kind
yeah.
of small hamster at the bottom of it. But it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's the paper, and I just start writing it down and while I'm doing it. And this is when I entered a chili cook-off, and I did which was not very popular vegetarian chili at a chili cook-off. People were
Although,
like,
and I'm not a vegetarian, but man, a good vegetarian chili is really,
"Oh
really
yeah, no,
good.
I do it." I know people that can't tell it's meatless because I chop eggplant and cook it like
Perfect.
ground beef. And you
Right.
get these little chunks of eggplant, and uh, it's almost it's pretty meaty, you
Mm,
know. But
mm.
anyways, it's just the process is fun and different. So
Is there anything that we have not talked about today that you would like to bring up? Stuff that you're working on, creative process thoughts? Any advice you would have for anyone who wanted to get into the culinary arts?
there you go. First of all, you discourage them. This,
Really think about this, right?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
but when I always go back to cordon bleu, because I taught every course in the college from the intro course to the graduating kitchens and stuff. But I spent a lot of time in the first class, the intro, where not basic knife skills and introduction to tools and things like that. Uh, but we'd always, have to talk about, do you know what you're getting into? And then they
Yeah.
throw around the word the passion. You have to have passion, you know, for this, and it gets overused, but you really have to love the outcome. I mean, there's that serotonin blast from especially when you serve a meal and you watch someone just like really enjoy it, and that's it's like being on stage and getting that applause,
It's the
right?
payoff. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
because otherwise in the kitchen it's 90%, how can I say it nicely? Crap.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 10% good stuff. Because otherwise you're back there scraping dirty dishes, you're cleaning out the grease trap, you're hauling garbage,
Yeah.
you're fighting with people, you're it's nasty. Spend half your time cleaning if you're in a good kitchen.
Yes.
Okay, you should be, and but it's 90% drudgery and 10%, reward.
I think that's true in a lot of the arts. We just don't pull
Yeah,
the curtain back. You don't see the
exactly.
back of the house, right? You don't get to see the hours of going to. How exciting is that? That's T and D. So that I don't have splashy S's when I talk into a microphone. This is really boring, boring stuff and
Yeah.
no fun. Yeah, I think that sometimes with some people underestimate what the real job is. They just see the part that's been
Yeah,
put out
yeah,
there. Yeah.
right. And kitchens are it's just messy though. I mean, you're not getting knee deep in garbage sometimes or
Yeah,
whatever.
I even think theater's not as messy as I think the kitchen's even messier than because theater they tear down, it can be dangerous and all this. The stuff my husband does for a living. He's backstage, and he
Okay.
would
Yeah, we
probably yeah.
yeah, we work with fire and sharp objects and fire.
Yep.
So,
Cirque du Soleil. I remember going backstage. My friends worked for Cirque, and we went backstage, and the wall of EMT of not EMT equipment, and for falls, not for if they happen, but for when. And I think Cirque had the most obvious setup where you're like, wow, there's a lot going on here we don't know about. All the stuff that's
right,
hidden, right?
right. I used to tell students as well that, until you really understand somebody's what they do, like their business, because you really have no idea what's going on. Like they talked about get it from like I can spend an hour doing a lecture on peas. Okay, if you really want me to, it'd be boring as hell, but I can talk about peas. But they think about how certain classes and things are such a waste, or when you're in college, you have required courses, right?
Right.
And it's like, why are they making this such? Why is he making it so hard? It's a big deal, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you got to understand, this person has dedicated their life to this subject. And it's of the utmost importance to them. And they're very serious about passing on that knowledge to you and expect you to take it seriously as well. And because that is what they do, that is their life. And you can't, discount it because you don't really care about it. You're just being forced to be there. But you had it, you chose what classes, but yeah, they're serious,
Is
and
it passion and discipline?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think. Because you have to have the passion to want it. You have to love it. You don't have to love all parts of it, but that's what the discipline is for. Because there's so much, to be really good as a chef, as an artist, and to never maybe sit still. Because would you say you're still growing as a chef?
All the time.
Yeah.
I'm always learning new things in the kitchen, saying, look, what I this, yeah, all the time. Yeah, but you're always, and something you have to keep doing, you know. I mean, you ride a bike, they say, you get back on, it's just like riding a bike, but uh, especially in the kitchen, and I'm sure
Yeah.
certain art, I imagine painting and sculpting, especially, there's a lot of muscle memory involved.
Hmm.
And and like golf, you know golf that's why it's so difficult, because you use so many different muscles from your heads to your toe, and if any
Wow.
one of them's not in the right place when you hit that ball, it's going this way or that way, not there. And
Right.
same thing with the kitchen. I had to get back my knife skills, and not after the dissection and not
Yeah.
cooking for so long.
Right.
uh so you have to stay up on those things. I imagine, say, a sculpt, holding tools, or even, I guess, in a theater too.
Oh, and for
Uh,
me to get back on
voice-
stage after I wondered if I could do it. I was really wondering if I
Hmm,
could do shows live. I can. I do get a little more tired, and I take my beta blocker an hour before the show. That was the agreement we had with my cardiologist,
hmm.
was to take, and
Yeah,
apparently they prescribe beta blockers for stage fright. And it was like, where was this my whole life? It's really helpful. You get nice and calm. Go out on stage
oh,
and do it.
it's nice to know. I don't have any data blockers, but yeah.
And we're all on different things. I'm on the warfarin, atorvastatin, beta, metoprolol,
Law, yeah, that's the beta blocker, right?
right? Yes.
I've been there, done that. I have made the entire I said they play medication roulette, and I think I've gone all the way around the wheel.
Now,
I almost died a couple
I
times
can't
because
remember the valve. Do you have a valve? And are you
of,
able to be, you don't have a valve. So I have to go, everyone should go back and watch his story on Aortic Hope too.
yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
no, I did
yeah,
not
mine
have a
too.
valve issue. I dissected from above my heart, above the
Okay.
valve. So
Above. Yep.
I had a full Stanford AB.
Gotcha. I know what
So I
that
had
means. You
some,
guys can look it up. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it's from the top of my heart, my aorta tore all the way to my kidneys.
Woo!
And so I ended up having my aortic arch replaced,
Yep.
which is where the branches come off to go to your carotids
Yes.
and your
Yes.
subclavians. I have my carotid replaced as well,
Yes.
because that's where it started. I felt the initial tear right
Up in
here,
here.
and it
Yeah.
just,
Carotids are these guys. Yeah.
yep, and just go to your brain and just traveled right down, and then just kept going and kept going this way, and kept going and kept going and kept going.
So the good
And
news is you're not on warfarin though, right?
no,
Good.
just an
'Cause
aspirin.
yeah. Wow. Because I'm on the warfarin for life. I love when people are like, "Yeah, we got to get you off that warfarin." I'm like, "Yeah, that's not an option." Because I have the St.
Bush
Jude
Ryan
mechanical.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
means my greens. It means I I eat the most exquisite greens, and they have to be prepared so well because I only get so many. Like I can eat them, but I have to track them, right? They have to
Right.
be good. They have to taste really good. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cook good greens. I like making greens. Yeah. But yeah, so
Yeah.
in fact, I don't know if you remember, well, on Facebook, I did a picture of one day I was doing my weekly or bi-weekly medication reload,
Okay.
because I do 2 weeks at a time. I have two kits, 3 times, and so I had everything on the table and it was massive.
Yep.
I was like, so I took a
I think I
picture.
saw it. Yeah,
Yes.
I have a robot upstaips. I pay a robot to spit my drugs
Uh,
out because it's
yeah.
different every day. I do eyeball it, and by the way, there are sometimes mistakes, so it's
Hmm.
good to if anyone else has one of those hero robots, eyeball your family's medication. But I'll tell you, it's great because if I have my drug dealers, and it does say drug dealer on my phone when it rings, because we have to change my INR, my dosing, depending
Yep.
on what I've eaten or drank. So we're
Mhm.
we're all, as dissection survivors, we're all different.
Yeah.
We all have totally different things,
Yep.
which is interesting. But I tell you, really grateful to be here,
Exactly.
and everyone who's on the Aortic Live, and anyone who gets to tell their story. It's really beautiful to hear these stories because when we do, wake up, it's one of those things where I'm like, all those things I was going to put off doing. Yeah, and you know what? No,
Hmm.
now is a really great time to do things.
That's my mantra now. Do it
Me
now.
too.
Don't wait for
Me
tomorrow
too. Yeah,
because it
and
may
I
not.
really, we get to enjoy every day. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that people go out and dissect. This is not good for the
Right.
body, and a lot of people don't make it. But it's that realization of just how precious
Right.
each
Don't put it
moment
off.
is.
Just, people will live that. You hear those stories on, she always wanted to go to Paris and all these years, and now she's
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
Or I had the same thing when I was had the wine business. I've done a lot of different things. I owned an import company, food and wine and coffee, all Italian.
All the good things. These are
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we would talk. Well, it really wasn't me. The Wall Street Journal years ago, back in the early 2000s, they had their wine critics. It was a husband and wife team, and they started this program called "Open That Bottle Night," and it was once a year. And because everybody has those bottles that they're just saving for a special occasion, right? This bottle,
Yes.
oh no, that I can't open this one. It's da da da. And what happens is eventually either the wine goes bad,
Yes. I have several of those
or
upstairs.
the
Yeah.
person you want to share it with is no longer here.
Right.
Or we'll get bring it on our 50th. Well, let's just wait for our 60th now, or whatever it may be, or something terrible happens and you just, you can't have that bottle. So they created this open that bottle night, which was this was the occasion
Hmm.
created to open that special bottle you've been saving forever and do it now. Don't wait.
Yes.
And it became a thing. I mean, people would, and I did this. I was one of those people that threw a dinner party on that night, and then to open up the special bottle. And even restaurant people in, and they would allow people to bring in, their own bottles without corkage fees
Nice.
that night, and let them, and help them and enjoy that if the people weren't, cooks and such. So it became a real big thing for about 10 years. Then they found new wine critics, and so it went away.
But I still think that's a lovely. I think it's something to think about, and something that anyone listening, if you have thought about a project, if you have a great bottle of wine, either one, both, do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
And
do it.
then wines, and you talk to winemakers and that particular thing, they want you to drink it now. They don't want
Yes.
you to put that bottle and
No.
save it for
You
50
can buy some
years.
more. You can buy some more.
Yeah, or but just enjoy it's like my food. Don't
Yeah.
don't take my food and put it away in the refrigerator until it spoils.
Right.
Eat it while it's fresh and it's hot and it's ready
And
to
I think
drink.
that's the life lesson. Yeah. Eat it
Yeah,
now.
right.
Rob, thank you so much for being on. I cannot thank
Well,
you enough. Be well. Be safe. From
thank
my
you.
my repaired heart to yours. Thank you
Yes,
very, very much.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Go to Your Room and Make Stuff, the podcast for artists of any kind who want to make art by themselves. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast in all the places where you find podcasts. Find us on social media. And if you ever have any artists you would like to see featured, please let us know. Now, go to your room and make stuff.